If you're divorcing a narcissist, one of the most dangerous things you can do is make financial decisions from emotional exhaustion. Because when women are overwhelmed, scared, desperate for peace, or emotionally depleted, they often start making decisions just to make the conflict stop. And that can cost you enormously later, financially, legally, emotionally. Today, I want to talk about the biggest financial mistakes I see women make when divorcing narcissists and why these mistakes are often driven less by lack of intelligence and more by emotional pressure and manipulation. Because once you understand that dynamic, you can start making decisions from clarity instead of from survival mode. Let's break this down into 3 things. First, why narcissistic divorce creates so much financial confusion. Second, the most common financial mistakes women make. And third, how to protect yourself financially without becoming emotionally consumed by the process. So first, why does divorcing a narcissist create so much financial instability and confusion? Because narcissists often use money strategically, not just financially, emotionally. Money becomes control and punishment, delay and leverage or manipulation. And many women entering divorce already feel financially disoriented before the legal process even begins. Sometimes they were excluded from financial decision-making during the marriage. Sometimes they trusted their spouse completely and never imagined they needed to verify information. Sometimes they're simply so emotionally overwhelmed that they cannot think clearly about long-term consequences. This is actually one of the biggest things I help women with in my coaching. Because when your nervous system is activated, it becomes very difficult to separate fear, urgency, and emotional relief from actual strategic decision-making. And narcissists often exploit that confusion. I learned this firsthand during my own divorce. At one point, my ex-husband came to me with what sounded like a very reasonable proposal. We had sold a house and there was a significant amount of money being held in escrow. He suggested we split the escrow money 50-50, share the children 50-50, waive child support, and walk away. At the time, it sounded tempting. I was exhausted. I wanted peace. I wanted the divorce to end. But something in my gut told me if he's pushing this hard for this, it's probably not in my best interest. Thankfully, I listened to that instinct because what I didn't know yet was that there were substantial debts I hadn't even uncovered yet. And if I had agreed to that deal, I would have walked away responsible for debt I didn't even know existed, without child support, without future protections, and without the ability to revisit important financial issues later. Eventually, those debts surfaced during the divorce process, and most of them ended up being assigned to his side of the ledger, which meant that in the end, I walked away in a much stronger financial position than I would have if I had agreed emotionally just to end the pain. And honestly, that experience taught me something incredibly important. Relief and strategy are not the same thing. Now, let's talk about the second piece, the biggest financial mistakes women make during narcissistic divorce. And again, I say this compassionately because most of these mistakes happen when women are emotionally overwhelmed. One huge mistake is rushing to settle because you're exhausted, not because the agreement is fair, not because it protects you long term, but because you desperately want the conflict to stop. Another mistake is failing to fully investigate finances because you're afraid of looking difficult, or assuming the narcissist is being transparent simply because they sound confident. Another common mistake is emotionally underestimating future costs. Women often think, I'll figure it out later. I just want freedom. I don't want to fight over money. But later comes quickly, especially when children's expenses arise, college approaches, support becomes inconsistent, or hidden financial patterns emerge after the divorce finalized. And narcissists often rely on emotional exhaustion to push women toward financially short-sighted decisions because exhausted people stop negotiating strategically. Another mistake I see constantly is organizing financial decisions around emotional guilt. Women worry, I don't want to seem greedy. I don't want to punish him. I just want to be fair. But fairness requires transparency and consistency and accountability. And narcissists often lack all three. This is why emotional regulation is so important financially. Because once guilt and fear and exhaustion take over, women often abandon their own long-term stability to avoid short-term discomfort. Now, let's talk about the third piece. How do you protect yourself financially without becoming emotionally consumed by the process? First, slow everything down emotionally. Urgency is often where bad financial decisions happen. Second, separate emotional relief from strategic thinking. Just because something would temporarily reduce your anxiety does not mean it's a good long-term decision. Third, ask more questions than feels comfortable. Get documentation, verify information, understand long-term consequences. And honestly, this is where support becomes incredibly important because many women are making financial decisions while emotionally flooded. A huge part of my coaching is helping women step out of panic mode long enough to evaluate what actually protects them long-term. Not just emotionally today, but financially years from now. And here's what starts changing when you make that shift. You stop making decisions from fear. You stop rushing toward relief. You stop confusing peace with protection. And you begin thinking more clearly about the life you're building after the divorce, not just how to survive the divorce itself. That's a huge shift. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. One of the biggest financial mistakes women make when divorcing narcissists is making decisions from emotional exhaustion instead of from strategic clarity. And narcissists often rely on that exhaustion to gain leverage, which means slowing down emotionally is not weakness, it's protection. If this is something you're facing and you'd like support navigating it strategically, you can book a breakthrough call with me. There's a link in the description below where you can get right on my calendar. And if this resonated with you, I'd really encourage you to watch my video called Why Explaining Yourself to a Narcissist Backfires. Because once you understand how emotional engagement affects your judgment and decision-making, you start approaching the entire divorce process differently. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And remember, you don't have to figure this out alone.